Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Katie, and thank you so much, Felicia, for all your help. We're so excited today. We're doing candy apples with Isomelts. Isomelts are an amazing product, and we'll talk all about why they're so amazing and why they're so easy to use. But to give you a little quick background on me, if we haven't met before, my name is Katie Rosenhaus. I'm a pastry chef, former bakery owner. I worked in restaurants for a long time. I currently work also as a food writer for a couple different magazines. So it's a pleasure to be here with you and to be here with Michael teaching these classes all the way through the holiday season. And so definitely come back. We'll talk later. There's a pie class next week. There's some really great Thanksgiving themed classes coming up. So I hope you join me for those. But today it's like the last Halloween class. Halloween, of course, is on Thursday. So this is like the last dessert you can make before Halloween. And it's quick and it's easy. And so hopefully we're just going to have a lot of fun. I am going to talk you through a few things today, and I can see the chat, so feel free to ask questions along the way, jump in, let me know your thoughts, your ideas, anything you want to talk about. Feel free to use that chat as much as you want to. And we are going to start with prepping our apples, which is kind of a big part of candy apples that not everybody knows about. So we'll talk about how to prep your apples so you don't get that bubbly surface. If you've ever made candy apples before and you notice like big bubbles on the exterior, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about ice melts. We'll talk about different decorations you can do. We might even package some candy apples so they're kind of ready to go if you're giving them out on Halloween to any of your friends and family or coworkers. And that'll be pretty much it. So to talk you through Isomelts, which is kind of the reason we're here, if you are not familiar, so Isomelts are a really great product. It's an inverted sugar. So if you've ever cooked sugar before, what can happen, which is kind of an unfortunate side effect of cooking sugar, is that your sugar can crystallize. So whether you're making hard candies, whether you're making caramel, really any stage that you're cooking your sugar to, crystallization can cause your sugar to sort of become very granular and lose its sheen and just, end up not as nice. Working with an inverted sugar takes that out of the equation completely. So Isomelts are amazing. Also, because they're an inverted sugar, you can use them over and over again. Whatever I don't use today, I'm going to let it harden. I'm going to save it, and I can use it and reheat it as much as I want to without it crystallizing. But also it comes in different fun colors, which is great for Halloween. We're going to do like a classic candy red candy apple. We'll also color some black because I feel like that poison apple vibe on Halloween is really fun. So you can color these, you can add flavorings to these, really anything you want, from extract to flavored oils, anything you would normally flavor lollipops or candies with, you can use for your candy coating for your candy apples. I almost said caramel apples, but candy apples. But so they're really fun. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use my microwave because that's going to be the easiest thing. So I brought that out today. I'm also going to be using some silicone bowls. So you will need some sort of microwave safe bowl. I like the silicone because you can kind of just like let it set in here and then pop it out when you're done and transfer your leftover ice melts to like an airtight container or a zip top bag. So that's really easy. I also have apples, which we'll talk about in a second. Something to pierce your apples with. So popsicle sticks are great. A very thick, sturdy cake pop stick can work, or a skewer. I also have like some of these paper straws. So you can use something like this, would be really fun. Anything you want for that. And then I have a mix of toppings. So I've got like some sanding sugars. I don't know if you can also see my top down, but I have some sanding sugars. I've got some sprinkles. I've just got like a whole mix of different fun things to decorate them with. I've got some gold leaf. So we'll get as fancy as we want today. And if we have time, I'm also going to do some candied apple slices. So that should be fun as well, just as like another alternative to your candy apples. But I mentioned to Felicia before, I'm going to put a big pot of boiling water right here. So if you lose that top down for a couple of minutes, that's why. I'm just going to like steam it completely. But when we talk about wrapping apples for candy apples, so has anyone made candy apples before? This gets kind of spooky, actually. We have like a cauldron vibe going on. Has anyone made candy apples in the past? If you have, throw it up in the chat. Let me know if this has happened to you, where you go to dip your candy apples and you dip it in the hot sugar and all of a sudden big bubbles form all along the surface. It was a fail. Never before. Not yet. Great. Well, it's fun. It's easy. But that's one of the downsides to what can happen when you're making candy apples. And of course, you know this. When you buy apples from the supermarket, they are covered in wax, right? And so that wax, if we're dipping that into candy, You can see you guys. If we're dipping it into a candy coating, what can happen is that wax can cause your sugar to sort of bubble, and it gets in the way of your sugar coating. So what we're going to try to do is eliminate that by removing the wax. So this is a couple step process. Our candy apples, cane sugar, or corn syrup. Isomelts are an inverted sugar. So typically if you're making a candy coating from scratch, you would use something like corn syrup, which is also an inverted sugar, to keep your granulated sugar from crystallizing. Isomelts are, it's like a low glycemic inverted sugar, and so you don't have to deal with any of that. And the candy will also fall right off with the wax. Yes, sometimes that does happen as well. So typically, if you have time, you are going to want to do this process at least a day ahead. We're going to do it same day. We're just gonna roll with it. And I'm so afraid to steam this. I'm going to just push it right here. But so I have a pot of boiling water. That's first. So I'm going to bring that back to a boil. I've got my apples, and I do like to, this is a personal preference, but for candy apples, I like the smaller apples. I'm not a big fan of like super big candy apples. It just seems like too much per person to have to like manage. So I do like the apples that come in bags, those little cute apples that you buy in the grocery store that come in a big bag. Whether you go with Granny Smith, which of course is a classic because the tartness and the firmness of a Granny Smith holds up really well to candy coating, or if you go with something like a Macintosh, which is totally fine too. And these I prepped in advance. So you'll notice that the surface of this apple, it kind of loses its sheen, right? It kind of becomes a little bit more matte. It darkens in color a little bit. And that's because I sort of removed that wax in advance. I mentioned apple slices. We put the Isomelts in a fondue or chocolate melting pot for dipping. I would not recommend Isomelts in a fondue or chocolate melting pot for dipping. You know, I would say, yeah, it's easiest just to use your microwave, to be honest with you, because then you could just reheat as needed. But it's possible. I haven't put it in a chocolate fondue pot. If anyone has and they've had good results, feel free to throw it up in the chat. But the microwave is the easiest, because this way, if it cools down when you're dipping your apples, you just pop it back in the microwave for a few seconds, reheat it, and it's good to go. So to my boiling water, I'm adding a couple of things. I'm adding vinegar. It's a couple tablespoons of vinegar. And I'm also going to add a little bit of baking soda. And this will bubble up a little bit. So I have a nice big pot. But I'm just going to sprinkle in a little bit of baking soda. And this is just going to help remove that wax surface. You don't have to be too particular about it. And I also have a spider here. So it's going to help me just lift my apples out when I'm ready. So these prep guys are good to go, but my Granny Smith are not. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to take an apple and I'm going to plunk it right into my water. I like to go one at a time because it really gives me time to kind of work off that surface before I have to move on to the next one. And obviously we don't really want to be cooking our apples for too long a period of time. So this is a pretty quick process. I also have an ice bath ready to go. So this is going to shock it when I'm done. But let's just put them in there. I'm going to let it roll around a little bit. I would say like 10 seconds or so, maybe 15. And it's funny because in the water, you'll start to notice like little bits of like a waxy coating kind of in the water itself. And I pull it out. And this is when you would either take a towel or a paper towel and just kind of work off all of that waxy stuff as best as you can. Just give it a good scrub dip in. Do you feel like I'm getting a facial? I do. And I love it. It's great. If they're a little bit more stubborn, which Granny Smith tend to be like a little bit more stubborn, just give it a little bit more time than I did. Let's go another few seconds. And funny enough, you would think like, oh, you're putting this in boiling water. Aren't you cooking your apple? When you cut your candy apples open, they are as good as fresh. There's no issue. Even if the surface looks a little bit darker or different than what you saw when you put them before you put them in the water, it's still perfectly fine. Out we come. And I'm not going to make you guys wait while I do all the apples. We'll work with the ones that are already ready. And I'm just rubbing it off as best I can. And you can, oh, here you are. You can kind of see that surface is changing. It doesn't feel as smooth. It definitely loses that coating a little bit. Make sure you get all the spots And now just into my ice water, just to kind of stop that cooking a little bit. And on to the next. Was that butter in the pot? There is no butter in this pot. This is just water, a little bit of vinegar, and baking soda. So I would say for about, let's see, what do I got? I have about 2 quarts of water in here, which you could definitely do more. You could really make sure the apples have a lot of room to get covered by the water. But per quart, I would say like maybe a teaspoon of baking soda and a tablespoon of vinegar per quart. But it's, you know, you don't have to really be too careful about it. All we're really trying to do is just work off that coating. And most of that just comes from the elbow grease. All right, we'll put a few more. And the other thing you also want to do is just remove any stems. Just get these guys out of there. So we're ready to go. I love these little apples. I feel like they're like the perfect size. Once they're nice and cool, I do like to put them top side down. This way the top gets extra dry. And I'm just putting it in a container with some paper towel. And if you do have the time and the forethought, if you do this a day ahead and just let them sit in the refrigerator overnight, you are going to see some of the sap from the apple starts to just bead on the surface. And you kind of rub that off, and that's even better. You're going to get an even better finish on your candied apples. Is anyone doing this along with me? I know that's a big ask. Just sort of curious. Or any plans to do this before Halloween? Right. So we'll sort of stop after these. And we'll do some with the wax coating just to see the difference also. That'll be like our experiment. So we'll set that aside. Yes, and you can also do candy melts. Candy melts also a great option. You can have a few different finishes on your apples. And because we're not really letting these sit too long, we're working with them right away. We may still get some bubbles going on. But you know what? That is totally fine. Don't even worry. They're still delicious. Doing caramel apple. Oh, nice. I love caramel. They're saying, are you making your own scratch-made caramel? Say yes. No pressure. All right, so let's move this out of here. Oh, perfect. All right, so I'm just drying these a little bit. I'll try to keep the wax ones separate. Put those over there. Dry them off. And we are going to dry them again, like right before we dip, just to make sure. Give them one last. You are in leftover caramel wraps. Oh, nice. That's great. Great. Yeah, I love caramel apples. I like caramel apples that are then dipped in chocolate. I think that's like the best. All right, so let's start getting our isomelts ready. So I've got my bowl, and here I have some that are already in my bowl ready to go. And you see they come in like these little nibs, which is fun. So they melt down really quickly. And I'm just going to pop them in the microwave. If you look at the bag, it says 20-second spurts, I think. 20-second intervals. That's fine. Sometimes I go a few seconds more, to be honest with you. You can kind of see through the door as they're melting. But it doesn't hurt to give them a little bit of a mix now and again. So we'll go 20 seconds. We'll see where we're at. And I think I'm going to do 2 bowls because I'm going to do one red and I'm going to color these reds black. So we do one red and one black. Just to mix it up a little bit. And again, what's great about this is if I don't use all of this, all I'm going to do is let them set and then just have them for next time, which is awesome. They're working. You can see if you're doing this too at some point after 30 seconds, not much movement. So put them back in. I don't use the microwave. Can I do this on the stovetop? You can. You can also do Isomelts on the stovetop. Nice low flame, low and slow. They're great. They're super easy and very hard to burn. Although you can. You'll know if you burn them. They'll be like a lot of smoke, but they're really easy to work with for sure. All right. Perfect. So in the meantime, let's get what we need ready. You see that was another 20. And I do not recommend doing this if you don't have chef hands. But you'll see at the very bottom, you see some liquid sugar just starting to form, just popping back in. Keep popping. And in the meantime, we'll get our apples ready. So I do have a Silpat, but Parchment works equally well. You can also use wax paper, even easier because they don't stick, they just come right off. But all I'm going to do is set up my apples so they're ready to go. And before we go ahead and work with these, you see there's like a little bit of water still beading on the surface. Just give them a really good wipe down. They look like chunks of hard jello. Yeah. Very similar to if you've made candy apples with Jelly Rangers, which I don't know about you. When I was a kid, I did that. I think at like camp once or something. But very similar kind of feeling. It's a hard candy, essentially. You can see it's starting to become a little bit molten. Pop it back in until it's all ready. And I've got my popsicle sticks, or you can use your fun straws. And it's hard to get them perfectly standing up straight. They're apples after all. You don't stir it in between. You don't have to stir it in between. I don't. You can at the end. And when I add the food coloring, I am going to give it a stir. But I don't stir it. I just kind of let it do its thing. You'll see at some point, you see it starting to bubble up. Now, if I notice, so like, for example, so here, like this isn't cooking, but this is, now I would go ahead and give it a stir. I don't love getting my spoon covered in Isomelts, because then you have to soak it for a while to clean it up. So I do take something like a toothpick or a cake pop stick, can be really helpful. Just kind of move it around a little bit just to get it all melted. But yeah, if you notice like a big chunk that's not making its way in, then definitely give it a stir. You can see how this is becoming really nice and liquidy. Yum, yum, yum. It's really fun. When I worked in restaurants, we did a lot of like sugar garnishes. Like if we do like a sugar pulp, like hazelnut or cranberry as a garnish to a dessert, we would use Isomalt. And that's what Isomelts are. They're just Isomalt. They're an inverted sugar. That's really easy to work with. So definitely a favorite for chefs, for sure. Very easy to just heat up a pot and then put a pot away of it for the next day when you need to make more garnishes. It's just ready to go. All right. We should be pretty good. So it's all molten. I'm gonna check this out. Oh, hi. I'm good. It's molten. The bowl gets a little bit warm. So like if you want to, then any sort of like heat-proof gloves can be helpful for this, especially if you're using these for, and you can use them for 1,000 different purposes. You can make lollipops, you can pull sugar with Isomelts. But in that case, I would definitely recommend gloves. Sugar burns are no joke. Any pastry chef will tell you. I think that's like the bane of pastry chef's existence are sugar burns. I used to have sugar burns like all up and down my arms. So any sort of gloves that'll help protect you can be helpful. But you do want to kind of let the bubbles subside for a little bit. I'm just giving it a stir with my toothpick. And just let them kind of calm down a little bit. You know, we don't want a lot of air bubbles. And right out of the microwave, there's a lot of air bubbles kind of hanging around. This doesn't cool down too quickly, which is helpful. So you have some time, but you can, like I mentioned before, you can just pop it back in the microwave as you need to. And that just makes it really convenient. So let's take a paper towel. So, and I know this is, you're like, how many times are you going to wipe these apples? Just give them one more, especially around where we put the popsicle stick. Get in there, make sure all of your liquid is gone. Give it a wipe. And again, I did this morning. I did not let them rest overnight. We're still probably going to get some bubbles, but it is fine. They're still going to be absolutely delicious. No problems there. So when you're ready, I'll try to give you the best view. I'm going to take my apple and I'm just going to plunge it in and I'm just going to rotate it around. You can go all the way to the stick if you want. You can just do the side and leave a little bit of that center part empty. That's totally up to you. But all I'm doing is working my way around. And when it comes to the excess, just let it drip off into the bowl. You can also just kind of swipe it just a little bit right on the edge, because we don't want what's called a foot. That's when you get like a big round of sugar in the very bottom. And just down. That's it. So this came out pretty good, actually. I don't see a lot of bubbles happening, which is great. Now, if you want to get a little fancy with these, there are some ways, right? So the first way is to kind of, when they're hot, if I wanted to, I could like dip it right into, for example, I have like this bowl of peanuts. I just did some finely chopped peanuts. Maybe we'll do that with one of them. But I'll also show you a way that after they set, you can decorate as well. So just letting my excess drip off. Seems easier to work with than candy melts. Yeah, I mean, in a way, you know, they are the scary part about working with sugar, which I think, you know, anybody would agree with, is just the heat of it. Yeah, but that's kind of fun. Yeah, the heat is the scary part. If you're not afraid of the heat, you know, or as people say, if you can't take the heat, you know. But other than that, they're really easy to work with. So if they are set, which we're going to let one set, we're going to do a little bit of sanding sugar after this one hardens, and you could see how quickly they harden. Like if I pick this up, we just did this wetlet 2 seconds ago. It's hard. It's good. It's ready. So I am going to use the boiling water for that. So let's do a little bit more, and then we'll finish those. I am going to start getting this one in the microwave. We're going to color this one black. So I'm going to start doing that. Burn, baby, burn. Exactly. Exactly. And not in a fun way, burn, baby, burn. Another fun thing you can do, and I like that for this one, actually. Oh, hi. You can see how nice this looks. It's very like county fair. But we are gonna, let's do a little drizzle with some of the sugar just as an alternative. So try to give yourself some space. But all I'm gonna do is take my spoon and just let the excess drip off a little bit. And then all I'm gonna do is kind of go around. Just gives it like a fun, a little something, a little extra texture. So that could be a fun thing to do too. Let's do another 30. I think we have enough. If I did one more, maybe not. Let's do one fun thing. So before I dip, I'm going to take a little bit of luster dust. This is another option here. And I'm going to add it straight into my sugar. And I might have to reheat it just a little bit. But if you're looking for like a glittery apple, this is like an edible luster dust. I'm just going to stir it around with my spoon and see how it changes. And actually, if you're looking for other alternatives to coloring your sugar with a sugar that's already colored like this, I don't know if you could see the sparkle, but it's very pretty and sparkly. Adding white color can turn it into more of like an opaque surface. Here we have that translucent red. But if you are looking for something a little bit more opaque, you can add white to this and make it opaque as well. So pop that in the microwave with the other one. Let's see, is there a trick to caramel apples, an easy type of melt? You can use the caramel candy melts. That's one option, but that's definitely more of a chocolate situation. Craft caramels, yes. I would say, honestly, to make your own caramel, do it. I have a recipe online. I don't know if I should say it, but If you search for my name in caramel apples, you'll find my caramel apple recipe, and then you can make it. It's really easy.
And Katie, you are more than welcome to give them your information.
But just Google Katie Rose caramel apples, and you'll find my caramel apple recipe. You can make homemade caramel apples. It's super easy. All you need, just have a thermometer, just in case it'll help you. But even if not, you can always check the texture of caramel just by dropping a spoonful into some ice water and just check the consistency with your fingers, make sure it's nice and chewy, and then you'll be perfect. So I'm going to do one with the glitter, just for fun. Glitter it up. This is very like Snow White. I don't know if you can really see the glitter on the camera, but in person it's very lustery and pretty. Just gonna swipe it. All right, so let's color the last one black. Oh, I missed this one. Don't look at that. We'll hide that one for me. So before my Isomelts melt completely, this is the other bowl that I put in. I'm going to give it a little bit of a stir because I've got some chunks here. But the one thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of gel color right at the end. So actually, I'm going to let it go a few more seconds before I add it. Note that when you add food coloring, so like if I added a liquid food coloring to this, which I would not recommend because it's going to liquefy your candy. Note that anytime you're adding liquid, you are sort of thinning the consistency of your candy coating a little bit. So it could make it a little bit more sticky than you meant it to be. So working with gel color is nice because it gives you the most vibrant color without changing the consistency of your coating. So I do have a little bit of black gel color, and really a drop or two goes a long way. There we go, proper spelling of her name for the recipe. Did you get that, Joanne? Click in the meeting group chat. Oh, perfect. Yeah, it's Rose and House, Rose like the flower, N, and then House, House. Caramel apples. I think it's on tasting table. Okay. So we're just going to add a drop of food color, and we'll see where the color goes. You can always add more. It's hard to take it away, and too much, you know, is just unnecessary. You don't want to waste color. So we'll start with a little bit. We'll give it a stir. And be careful, it might bubble up a little bit. And you can see like a little bit of color with Isomelts. Goes a long way. So if I want that like poison apple, that spooky poison apple. You can see it's not totally melted yet, so I'm going to pop it back in for a few more seconds. And then I'm going to get my water back because we're going to finish some of those set ones with sanding sugar. So what we're going to need to use the boiling water for is it's going to steam our apples just a little bit, just to make the surface a little bit tacky. Because of course, if we try to stick anything to them now that they're set, that's going to be impossible. So I'll bring back my burner. Got my water coming back up to a boil. And in the meantime, while it comes to a boil, we'll dip our black ones. So again, always give your apples a wipe, especially if they've been sitting a minute. Just wipe them. I know, I didn't go like all the way black. I got like it's almost like it's a vampire black. Like a blackish red. But you can add more coloring as you like. You can go as dark as you want to. See where we're at. And remember, we just did these today, so there is a chance we're going to bubble here. But that is fine. This is kind of fun. I don't know if you could see, but it almost marbled the color because I didn't swirl it in completely. I don't like it. That's fun. It's pretty. Very Halloween. Let's do it. I'm just going to add a little bit more black. Just more. I feel like someone should invent something for giving like every bit of color out of your gel color. Do you feel like there's always so much left in the bottle? Yes, and you can watch this on YouTube. It should post within like a day or two on the Michael's YouTube channel. You can definitely watch the replay. So when you're ready to do your apples. Look how fun that is. I like that. Just swipe off the bottom. All right, we'll do one more. Oh, actually, no, because I want to save some for the slices. So we won't do any more of those right now. So we want some apple slices later. All right, so now that these have set nice and firm, let's take our water. We're going to want to get some good steam going. So get it on nice high heat. And grab your sanding sugar. I don't know, whatever you feel, but it's fun to kind of match like black with black or black with gold. Red with red is really cute. And I'm going to get some sort of plate to catch it. And the steam from our water is going to warm up the exterior of our sugar and just make it so that things can stick again. So again, now if I take this and I just hover over, if I just hover like this, I'm not going near the water, I'm just hovering over the water. And every once in a while, just give it a feel. It should start to feel a little bit tacky. It doesn't take long, just enough that things are going to stick. I'll test it. Yep, it's ready. So once we're good, right away, we're going to come over to our plate. Let's see this. Here we go. And just sprinkle as much or as little sanding sugar as you like. Just as like a fun. It gives this like really fun finish. And this is really fun. I saw somebody do like a frozen apple. It was like a blue, like a opaque blue, like blue apple with sanding sugar on it. Super cute for like a frozen theme. We could do the same with our black. Get it a little bit tacky. Save your sanding sugar. Yeah. A little bit sticky, just a little bit. And then right away with our sanding sugar. Oh, this one's fun. This is very Halloween-y. How fun that is. So spooky. So spooky. You can have a lot of fun with these, even with the gold leaf, which I know it's like a little fancy, but if you're having a fancy party, take a little bit of a knife, and this is like edible gold leaf. You could just buy these little sheets of gold leaf. Same thing, get it nice and tacky. Does the sugar come in colors or do you color it? It comes in all different colors. But once you kind of take the base colors, you can imagine they're kind of like primary colors, like red, green, blue. You can add additional color as you want so that it gets the exact color that you're looking for. So once my apple is a little bit tacky, I can take as much or as little gold leaf as I like and just stick it all over my apple. And I'm going to take a little paintbrush once it's set and just kind of dust it on. And it sticks really nicely. Where's my picture? There it is. Oh. This is just the kind of you could even take a little bit more of that luster and just kind of blow a little bit of luster on at the end, just to give it a little bit more sheen. You could really have fun with these. Could we use shimmer to, oh yeah, for sure. Shimmer it up, definitely. Yeah, you can even have, they have, does anybody have those sprays? It's like a shimmer spray. And you can spray it all, I love those. It's like a dust spray. Then you could just like blow it right on. All right, so let's go into our apple slices. Let me know if you have any other questions on the apples, but we'll pull out the slices. So to do slices, obviously apple slices, you're kind of cutting open the wet part of the apple. And so the thing about Isomelts is sugar does not stick well to water or to moist surfaces really. So what I like to do is just freeze the apple slices until they're nice and firm. So if you have an hour could be enough. Even 2 hours would be great. If you don't have that kind of time, you can even plunge them into ice water and just give them a really good dry before you work with them. Let's scoot these over. And this is the kind of thing, you know, candy apples obviously have a shelf life, right? You know, you are working with fresh produce. It's not going to stay great forever. And any humidity that's in your refrigerator, that moisture that's in your fridge naturally, is going to affect the sugar coating a little bit. So I do like to store them at room temperature. So putting them in either like a really good airtight container or putting them in cellophane bags and just, you know, really tightening them up, that can be helpful. Just to keep them as fresh as possible. But it is something that you want to do pretty close to when you're serving. So like the day of, or at most the day before, would be great because then they'll be as fresh as possible for serving. But before I pull out my slices, I'm just going to re-liquefy. You can see as they start to set up, it's firming up a little bit. So if it firmed up all the way, I could just pop it right out of my silicone bowl and just save it for next time I want to use it. But I'm going to re-liquefy these in the microwave. And that's what's great about these. If I was working with sugar and I made like it's called hard crack sugar. If you cook your sugar to the hard crack stage so that it dips as a hard candy, it would crystallize the more I would reheat it. So every time I would be at risk of crystallization. So, you know, Isomelts take that fear out of the equation, which is really helpful. All right, so for these, I have some fun stuff. I've got candy, I've got eyeballs, and all sorts of cute stuff here. I'm gonna grab my apples. So all I did was slice some apples. And I went with the little guys because they're cute. See, they're frozen. They're nice and frozen. I just put a popsicle stick in there. And they're cute. They're like ready to go. So you do want to do the same thing, which is just make sure any moisture is gone. So it's silly, but just like give them a squeeze. And ice water, a bowl of ice water works pretty good for this. If you're in a rush and you're doing it the last minute, just prep them like this, stick them in ice water for about 5 minutes and just wipe them off. And you could pretty much coat them pretty easily. And while they're still warm is the time. Any candies you want to add? And kind of have fun with this. Some eyeballs. Do one big eyeball. It's spooky. Some sprinkles. These are like the Broom Rider sprinkles there at Michael's. Is really cute. But these are fun. And then you just put them right on your silicone. Same deal. This is like another fun thing. And what I like about the slices is like a whole candy apple is like such a commitment, you know, but slices, especially for like a kid's party, you don't even have to dip them all the way. They will, you know, discolor a little bit over time, but if you brush them with a little lemon juice, you can help sort of abate that a little bit. But you can really have fun with these guys. The eyeballs. I love these eyeballs. I think I've put them on like everything I've made for Halloween this year. I'm like in eyeball mode for some reason. All right, once we go with the red, it's a little more. Plus they'd be easier to eat. Yeah, for sure. Much easier to eat. That is for sure. Much easier to bite through. Thank you, microwave. It's kind of fun. Got some like glitter on it. It's cute. So what do you guys think? Any questions? Any thoughts? Any fun ideas? What are you planning for your Halloween? This will be the last one here with my red candy melts. Oh my God, I keep saying candy melts. Red candy. You make it so easy for me, but I must get back to work. Go, go. Thank you so much for joining me. Please share your project. Yes, please share with us. If you do make these, which I hope that you do, please share with us on Instagram. You can hashtag make it with Michaels, hashtag Michaels class, hashtag learn with Michaels. Follow us on Instagram at learn with Michaels. You can find me on there as well. Thank you guys so much for joining me as I dip this red one. I did not have enough in here to fully melt this thing, but it looks pretty cute anyway. Cover. I'll make it work. I'll be over here making this work. But yes, please join me for mini Thanksgiving pies next Thursday. It's going to be, who's going to eat those? That's a great question. I'm probably going to eat at least a few, but maybe my daughter will eat a couple also. But join me for next week. Mini Thanksgiving pies is going to be really fun because it's going to be a mix of mini pies in a tart pan, pumpkin, pecan, apple. Maybe I'll throw one more surprise in there, but it'll be really cute and a really fun way to just make, change up your Thanksgiving routine. But thank you guys so much. This was so fun. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, Felicia. Thank you guys so much. Happy baking. Thank you so much.
Katie, did you want to show them the full screen of the ones you've already made?
Sure.
You want me to go overhead?
Sure.
Okay.
Come on down. Hello. And I did just pack this one. So this one is like in a cellophane with a little ribbon. But yeah, we've got all these beautiful candy apples. Happy Halloween, guys. It does. It hardens so quickly. So quickly. Cool. All right, Felicia.
All right. Well, we thank you all for joining us today and hope to see you in our next class. Bye.
Bye.